of the Success Grid podcast with your host Hussein Talib. In this episode, I have with me Craig Cook to talk about the five elements of entrepreneurial success with the business kung fu method, I would call it. Now we are going to discover something new actually. And I'm sure there's a great story behind this. So Craig is a successful entrepreneur who had the foresight to start a digital first company utilizing the internet way long before the digital transformation ever happened. The other buzzword of today's were created with extremely limited resources of 1300 bucks and an Apple computer, which is great. I assume when he started to have an Apple computer, he started rhythmnet.com with a couple of friends from college. Over the years of struggle, adaptation, and repositioning the brand, Rhythm was sold to a world-class digital creative agency in 2019. Craig stayed with the company for just over 3 years, completing a 26-year-long marathon of running the company as CEO. So I am really excited to have Craig here. Craig, welcome to this episode of the Success Grid podcast.
Thank you so much, Hussein, for having me here today. I'm really happy to be here and happy to share with your audience.
Awesome. I am very interested to learn more about this story and the business that you build, especially that you're talking about long time. And it was like now, if if I think of the internet back in 30 years, like when we used, or 20 years when we used to use the kind of a dial-up connection and hearing the
Yes.
that was interesting. Everything slow, like you leave a page, you go to sleep, the next morning it still haven't loaded yet. So yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah,
But
those are the days.
yeah.
Yeah. Love.
But first of all, because this is the Success Grid podcast, I want you to tell me and the Success Grid Nation, what do you think or believe success is, and what do you see or hear other people have misconceptions around success?
Yeah, that's a great question. To me, success is different for everyone because everyone is a unique individual with their own set of needs and desires. And for me, when I first started the company, that definition of success changed over time. When I first started the company, my thoughts of success were making tons of money and just creating this massive company and making money and, and the material things, right? And I was young at the time. I was 25, and now that I'm older and hopefully wiser, success for me is really more about fulfillment. What brings you fulfillment at the end of the day? So, wealth, monetary wealth, and material things are nice, and it's great to have those things and to be appreciative of those things, but it's not everything. What's the relationships in your life like? At the end of the day, that's what's really super important. And then what kind of time do you have available to yourself? How do you spend your time? Are you able to have the time to partake in activities that bring you joy? Are you able to take care of yourself? Do you have the time to take care of yourself? So it's really about a mixture of things that all encompasses a sense of fulfillment in life at the end of the day. To me, that's success.
Hmm. That's very important because when you are feel fulfilled, it's not about we are not talking about monetary goals. We're talking about all aspects, health, wellness, your being, your family, community, people that you are around you and you are around them that care for each other and supporting each other grow. Because this is about life, and business is about growth every day, being consistent and driving forward in general, whether it's a success or a failure. So that's very important. Now you have this business that you started a website, rhythmnet.com, and I want to hear from you a little bit of the story. What was the site about? How did the idea came from back in the
Sure.
day? How did things formulate for you? What did you think about as a young guy starting this business? How did you think the world would see your business? How would successful it could be? What was your vision for it?
Okay, yeah, that's a lot of great details there I can provide. So yeah, so I'll start with the I like to call it the creation story. So um, way back in 1995, at the time, I was learning about the internet. I was using what was called America Online, and it was that was my on-ramp, my gateway to the internet in slow dial-up 14.4 modem speeds. And it was interesting just being able to communicate with people from all over the world, and I was fascinated by it. And I also had so I had a passion for technology in general. I really started to gravitate towards technology in college. I volunteered for what was called at the time the Multimedia Design Center, and it had a whole bunch of computers loaded with, at the time, they were new programs, but Photoshop version 1.0 and PowerPoint and Illustrator, all these different, mostly like publishing type programs. So I started teaching myself how to use those programs, and I was helping other faculty and students learn how to use those programs. And that's where I really became passionate about technology. Then when I graduated college, that's when I started learning about the internet, as I mentioned, America Online, and then reading about it. And I also had a passion for music. And one of my friends and I, we would get together to play music. I played guitar and piano, and he played guitar. So we'd get together and play music. And one day, when I was coming back, I was coming back from the beach, and I stopped at this one computer store. And on the magazine rack, they had a whole number of CD-ROM magazines. And I picked up this one, I believe it was called MusicNet at the time. Took it home, popped it in, and it had all these independent musical artists, the ones that were really, I had never seen them before, never heard about them. And I was like, wow, this is amazing. How neat is this? And then the idea was kind of like, wow, wouldn't this be cool to do online over the internet? And then, in talking with my friend, we started talking about putting, potentially our music on there, but then like, wow, that'd be a great service for independent musicians. So we decided to just go ahead and do it, and started researching the potential for the internet. And this is like late 1995. And it was just everything that was seen from research reports. So it's just really validating, like, yeah, this is going to be big. So in 1996, we started the company and launched rhythmnet.com, which was a website geared towards marketing independent music. And here in the United States at the time, it was how people discovered music was through the radio. And it was all like top-down programming. There was no choice, really. It was just you turned on the radio and you picked your station, and that was their choice. Um, but we created a website where people could land on it and discover all kinds of independent artists, and learn about them, listen to their song samples, and purchase their CD through a secure server. And that was way back in 1996. And then the business evolved over time. And you probably have more questions about that, but I should probably, stop there and, and let you ask more questions.
That's very interesting. I assume because maybe what you have developed there, uh, maybe big, let's say, businesses like Amazon maybe took from you. I don't know. I'm just saying. I don't know about that exactly, but it could be right. Is that something that happened, for example?
Yeah, so, at the time, it just addresses your one question earlier too about the vision, right? At the time, we thought, oh wow, this is going to be like this really huge website, and we started in 1996, and it was right when people were discovering the internet. But it was an idea before its time because there was no broadband, there was no MP3s. People were afraid to buy things online through a secure server. And we had very limited resources. Like you mentioned earlier, we started the company with $1,300 each. There's three of us actually in a computer, and we just didn't have the funds to, like other big companies, and we didn't get any investors. So a lot of different things that we could have done that we didn't, and maybe it was good, maybe it was bad. There was that big blow up of companies and the dot-com craze. a lot of those companies that got funded ended up going bankrupt too. So it was interesting. We just went through more slow managed growth, but there was this vision that we were going to be this big, huge music website, and that didn't turn out to be the case. We struggled too much with that. It was just very challenging for us to make decent money at that, and we had to adapt and change, and turn our company into a different company, which I'm sure we'll talk about.
Yeah, because I think, especially in the music industry, for example, there are a lot of things like copyright, the artist rights, different things dealing with the distribution centers, the companies that produce the music. A lot of problems that the internet, like we talked about, it was very slow streaming, and these type of things were like very slow. So people used to buy CDs. Maybe I used to buy cassettes for my cassette player. So
Yeah.
a lot of things that maybe it was kind of ahead of its time, I guess, maybe something like that.
Yeah. Yeah, it was. It was actually. And we just didn't have the monetary resources to really push it through or make that model sustainable until it was time, right? But
Yeah,
that's okay. You know, things worked out pretty well,
yeah.
and you know, we just adapted and changed, and started doing um focusing on a different market, but utilizing all this technology that the internet gave us.
Definitely, it's completely different world now that we are living. Everything is faster paced.
Mhm.
A lot of things like emerged, like even for example, some kind of social media like MySpace, and how they turned it into some kind of a music platform. I don't know if anyone still visits MySpace now. I'm not sure about that, but there are a lot of
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, it was funny. The MySpace, when they did that, it was pretty much what our website was 10 years prior, actually.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And yeah, I don't think it they didn't do well either with that from what I remember. Yeah, I don't think anyone goes there anymore.
No, 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 but nowadays, if we are going to be talking about music specifically, for example, like most people, I think maybe I don't have like some kind of an article or stat, but I think a lot of us use now Spotify for
Yeah.
music in general. I used to use some kind of an app called Winamp. I have downloaded my own music. I have a list and keep playing for like 24 hours a day for metal and rock music. So that was
Yeah.
the case. But now it
Yeah.
died and Spotify replaced it. So it's always consistent change with that. So in that regard, now, how did you deal with this type of thing when it happened to your business?
So what happened was we started getting requests from people we knew that worked at companies that said, well, you know, this internet thing, this internet stuff, can you do a website for our company? And we're like, yeah, sure, we could do that. And we kept getting these requests. So a couple of years later, this is around 1998, we decided to pivot to change our focus and become more of a web design company to service companies, businesses. And we kept the music site on the side. We didn't kill it. We left it there to still develop it and see where we could take it. But to make real good money, we decided to focus on this other market, and that worked out well. And at the time, in 1998, I saw a vision for what the future of a marketing advertising agency should look like, which would be an integrated model that would combine both online and offline means of communication. Yeah, at the time, traditional agencies were still completely in control, and everything was still radio, TV, and print. And this internet thing was kind of laughed at. It was like a joke to them, right?
Now people can't live without the internet. Like it's
Right.
for anyone. Cut air, but don't cut the internet.
Yeah, right, exactly, right. It's funny. It's like who's laughing now, right? So yeah, and but yeah, so seeing that, we determined that let's go down this path, and we need to pick up a lot of different capabilities in order to fulfill that vision to develop a business model that would work in that manner. So we started picking up different skills such as email marketing, search marketing, um, online display, even started picking up some print capabilities. Like, so we were brokering printing. We actually CD-ROM development at the time. CD-ROMs were very popular for applications, and we developed our own little proprietary methodology of creating CD-ROM applications that were these beautiful desktop applications, and we did a lot of them for the pharmaceutical industry. Actually, we had a great 10-year run doing these projects where we'd run 500,000, 1 million units of a CD-ROM, and we do everything: design, programming. We design the package design. We would also broker the printing and broker the CD replication, and just handle everything start to finish, and ship them to where they need to go. And it was a great run for 10 years. And then when the iPhone came out, it kind of killed the CD-ROMs. Yeah, but we kind of, when we saw that, I was like, oh, okay, time is short for this. So, we kept it going as long as we could, but we needed to make sure that we were focusing on all these other services that I mentioned before, like email and search and paid display and video, also producing video content, actually, or
Mm.
online. We started getting into that as well. So yeah, we created this integrated model, becoming a solution-based company that had what we call 3 pillars: strategy, design, and technology. And we leveraged those 3 pillars to create solutions for clients that utilized any of those services working in conjunction with each other.
That's very impressive. So we are going to be talking about the elements of the entrepreneurial success, but also I want to understand the name of the business Kung Fu. So I want you to expand on business Kung Fu, but first of all, why Kung Fu? Why not Karate or Taekwondo? What's special about Kung
Sure.
Fu?
Sure. So
Maybe
business Kung
controversial,
Fu.
but interesting.
Yeah. So that's my first book, Business Kung Fu. And I Kung Fu and not karate and all that stuff is because I actually started studying Chinese Kung Fu when I was 17. And I studied it intensely between the ages of 17 to 25. After a few years, it actually did actually get modified because my instructor's instructor, both of them studied at Alan Lee's Chinese Kung Fu Wushu Temple in New York City. But my instructor's instructor, Harry Castell, he actually left in around 1991 or so and started his own system of martial arts. And it was a more of a blended martial arts system that incorporated all kinds of different arts. So I did learn other aspects of various arts too, but the foundation was Chinese Kung Fu.
Mm,
So the concept of the book, Business Kung Fu, is that I took the principles and what I learned from studying martial arts with the foundation of Chinese Kung Fu and applied it to the business and how my mindset, which is, really having the proper mindset to be an entrepreneur, to be in business, my habits, being disciplined, it's super important. Martial arts really brings out the discipline in you. And then even just other aspects of thinking, like creating a complete system. What I described to you earlier with the 3 pillars and the different core services working together. It was an integrated system. It was a complete system, a complete business model, because the fighting system that I learned was a complete fighting system. It wasn't just, a few things. It was, punching, kicks, blocks, ground fighting, grappling, um, air, a variety of different arts, just all kind, internal and external, all types. There's a complete system. So that's the way I approach the company. So Business Kung Fu, the book, is explaining all of these principles and lessons that I learned and along my entrepreneurial journey. And what my intent is with the book is to really inspire and empower other entrepreneurs to help them overcome any challenges that they find on their journey. It's really a mindset book at the end of the day.
It's very important. Like we're talking here about adaptability. Like your
Mhm.
business changed, things changed. You need to know where our opportunity lies and go there and maybe expand in different ways or branches. And at the same time, you kept supporting the basic idea, let's say. So this is adaptability is very important for business owners,
Yes.
entrepreneurs. So is adaptability, for example, one of the basic elements of entrepreneurial success? would you say, or they are different of what I am imagining right now in my head?
Yeah, great question. So it's not part of the five element model, and I almost thought about putting it in there, but we'll get to the five elements model. But this adaptability aspect is very important because, as I explained earlier, yeah, it was a story of adaptability and how we changed from a marketing independent music to becoming a web design company to becoming a full service digital agency. And then there was other points that we shifted and adapted to, because then we were first started working with small businesses, but then we adapted and changed and started working with large companies, like middle market to large enterprise companies. So there's all these different points in time where we adapted. And from martial arts, that was one of the things I learned, was adaptability. And when my instructor Harry Costell, started his own system, he was adapting. It was all about adaptability, because coming across different types of martial artists, being able to embrace what they bring to the table and adapt to their fighting style. So you weren't locked into a certain style in a sense, was very important. And he even had or has a method called SCRAW, which is a training method, and it stands for spontaneous creative rhythmic adaptation method. So adaptation, being able to be adaptable is part of one of the core methods of the system that I've studied.
Yeah, adaptation is very important. Like in business and in life, there are
Yes,
certain things that we can control. For example, and certain things we can't. So these
that's right.
things we cannot control. We need to know how to juggle things around, I guess, in business and life. So that's very important. You need to be some kind of flexible in going forward. We don't want to stay at where we are, because especially in business, especially nowadays, everything is going fast, extremely fast.
Yes. Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Everything you said, spot on, 100%.
Yeah, so can you now explain to us in a some kind of a quick overview of what is to you the elements of entrepreneurial success? Because when we talk about businesses, entrepreneurs, maybe we talk about how important selling is, or how important our branding is, how important is our marketing is. So, what's your look on this?
Sure. So, yeah, all those items that you uh, said are true. And then those are the kind of like foundational skills that entrepreneurs need to have. And that's like the first chapter of my book. I talk about laying down the foundation. And there's a variety of just business skills that you need, the ability to communicate, in the written word and orally. Some financial skills, the skills that you mentioned essentially. But the five element model that I created is different, and I'll explain it. So it's based on Chinese five element theory. Now, Chinese five element theory is very ancient, thousands of years old, goes way back into their culture, and it spans across their culture for not only martial arts, but medical systems, spiritual systems, music, food. It's just something that's part of their culture. And it's really all about balance at the end of the day, a balance of the elements. Um, the five element theory states that we are everything essentially. It has a constitution of these different five elements, a different mixture, but it's how they stay in balance, which is important. And in Chinese five element theory, those five elements are fire, earth, water, metal, and wood. So understanding that model and borrowing upon that from my personal experience as an entrepreneur, and also my personal experience of observing other entrepreneurs, I came up with my model of five elements of entrepreneurial success that is based on this five element theory. So the five elements of entrepreneurial success, I like to have it start with passion. It could actually start with any of the elements, but I find it easiest to explain it starting with passion. Passion leads to discipline. Discipline leads to expertise. Expertise leads to confidence, and confidence leads to faith. So it's a generative cycle, or a creative cycle is referred to. And as I mentioned, it leads into the other. And then it could go the other direction too, where each of the elements starts to diminish, and that's the destructive cycle. So I'll show the diagram for your audience so they can see it real quick. But you'll see it's like a star pattern, and there's it could go in one direction, like I mentioned, it could go backwards in the other direction. But then there's relationships between
Crisscross.
each of the elements where you get that star pattern. Yes, you get the star pattern, and there's these positive and negative impacts that each of the elements could have on each other based on the conditions of the element, if they are in excess or deficient. Because what I explain is you want to develop these elements, and you develop the potential, the capacity, the potential of each element, and you fill that capacity. But as you do that with all the elements, you need to maintain a balance, because if you get out of balance, then you can have these negative impacts.
Hmm. That's very interesting. Like,
So for example,
yeah.
yeah. So I'll give you an example. So let's say someone has an excess condition, an excess element of faith. Faith is really important. It's super important, and we can talk about why. But let's just say it's just out of balance because there's just too much faith, right? Well, with too much faith, it can end up having a negative impact um, into where a person is just kind of too, let's say, they're just relying on that, where they're just kind of sitting around expecting things to happen, and they're not taking action. There's too much inaction, right. So what can happen with that faith, it ends up where it goes to this discipline over here, and then also the expertise area. There's these relationships, and it can take away from that discipline, and also which ends up detracting from your expertise, because the only way you really gain expertise is through disciplined action over time, right? So if someone has just too much faith, oh, everything's just going to happen to me because I have all this faith and positive thinking, and I'm just going to sit around and it's just going to come to me, and that's an excess condition of faith. It needs to be in balance with everything else.
Definitely. Like, I would say, like, these five elements, like, you have to turn what we learn into some kind of action, like whatever action it is, whether, like we talked about, it might be a success, might be a failure, but we wouldn't know the result until we try take it into action, because with whether it takes short period of time or a longer period of time, this kind of passion drives us to I like this five elements. Like, to me, what I believe in, this is what I would think that it is, like, three things. This is I've been thinking about for a while. So skills, multiple kind of skills combined with passion, and passion to solve problems, but not just any passion, for example, plus network, which is like who you know and who knows you, right? And the third thing is like adding value and helping people, and you do that, you can do that multiple ways in business and life, but you need to sell, whether you sell your service, product, or yourself. So basically you need to kind of a sell, right? But these five things, that they are kind of an elevation, right? You talking about passion with something that, for example, you play music, or you played some kind of an instrument, which is a passion to play that instrument, and you when you start to learn that instrument, you don't know basically anything. It will take you discipline to learn more and more, and need time, and a certain amount of time you will be an expert, a little bit, let's say an expert. And when you become an expert, you become confident in playing more and more, and learning more and faster and easier. And then this will turn into something which is, like you mentioned, it's finally it's faith, whatever faith it kind of would be. And why
Yeah.
is, but you mentioned there is the reason why behind it. Why is that?
So with faith, so let's go a step back and go to the confidence. So, and confidence is essential because, as in your example with the musician, now they've become an expert at their craft, at their instrument. And now they have the confidence to go out there and present themselves and sell themselves to say, hey, I can do this, and have those interactions and get people to believe that. However, there's life is full of challenges, and it's full of what we sometimes we can refer to as curveballs, American baseball, curveballs that come at you, or you get sucker punched in the face. In a sense, like life has all kinds of unpleasant surprises for you that create these challenges for you that you have to overcome. And even if you have this confidence in you and in your abilities, these challenges can really detract from your mindset and throw you off. And this is like the next level of confidence, faith, is where you need to have this absolute certainty in yourself, this belief in yourself. But I also advocate a belief in a higher power, whatever one's belief system is, lean into that. And with that belief in yourself and a belief in your belief system, a higher power, you will be able to overcome any challenge.
Mm,
And that's what ultimately enables your warrior spirit to overcome the challenges so that you can eventually attain success.
definitely. We need to have some kind of like sometimes we need to have this kind of faith because uh like because we have to believe that we are going to achieve it while we are at step one, right? This is the
Yes.
kind of thing that it will happen, but it needs time. It
Yes.
needs work. It does not happen by itself. It does not happen by the law of attraction. I don't know. It just not, you cannot just imagine a six
Yes.
pack and it will appear. So
Right.
yeah, so that's very important. And
Yeah.
speaking of the curve, I something on the side. There's a movie called Trouble with the Curve. I encourage people to watch it. It's about baseball, so but generally,
Oh,
yeah, it's a good
that's fun.
yeah. So, but
Okay.
yeah, so from your experience now with all these years and these elements that you have shared with us here, what let's say someone have ever gave you some kind of a bad or worst advice that you would thought, I wish I have not done so and so.
Wow, that's a good question. Bad advice that I wish I would have not have followed. Hmm. Be that one before. Well, I'll tell you right off the bat, those first 5 years were really tough, and I just made a lot of dumb mistakes myself. Just mistake after mistake, and but that's how I learned and got extremely good at what I do is because they were learning lessons. When you make those mistakes, you have to acknowledge, like, oh yeah, I messed up.
Mm,
Okay, I won't do that again. So you learn from it, right? If as long as you have that mindset. Now from someone else, wow. Wow, that's a really good question. Because I know there's been times where people, there's been some people that came in as kind of outsiders to say, oh, you should do this, you should do that with your company. And that really didn't lead to anything. That didn't lead to like, oh, go pursue this market. There's a lot of opportunities here, and it really didn't amount to. And there may be various reasons why, but it was kind of more taking us off focus. Like we were very focused on what we were doing and who we were going after. And sometimes people would come in and kind of take us off track from that. And they would detract from our area where we were having success. And then we pursue these things that were just kind of, they just were something different that we weren't really even thinking about. And that usually didn't pan out. It just usually was a distraction. It cost money and we didn't get anything out of it and it would waste our time.
definitely. Sometimes you need to know what you must pursue and what things that you should not go at it and go after it. You need to choose. Sometimes you have to say yes to certain things and no to certain things. Not everything is yes, not everything is a no. So you need to have some kind of balance. with what you
Yeah,
do with the business, your life, the people around you. So that's very important to, and we need to have not this what they call like FOMO, fear of missing out of things, because
yeah,
things will turn out of good for good when we have this kind of faith that we talked about here, right? It will work out sometime in the near future or the future. If we believe in what we are doing, it will be helping us or the people or community around us or the people that we are serving, which is very important. This is what businesses do, help other people achieve what they want to achieve quicker and easier, hopefully. So
that's
that,
right.
yeah, right.
Yeah.
So, what would you say as a final takeaway to be for the Success Grid Nation or whomever listening will take from this episode?
Yeah, I would say, we talked about the five elements, right? And it's just really important to retain a balance in your business, in your life. There's the aspects of the entrepreneur, the five elements of entrepreneurial success, but you can even think of about five elements of success in just life overall. And you can kind of leverage that model not only for business, but for other aspects of your life as well, really. Um, and really to maintain a balance that will help you attain that level of success that we talked about at the very beginning of the show, which again, in my view, is really at the end of the day, are you going to have a fulfilling life?
Mhm.
And balance is extremely important with that. And one other little tiny thing with that, you have to make sure that you take care of yourself. That I do write about that in my book. It was a big lesson I learned where I lost my health, and I had to go on a journey to regain that. And now I feel like I did when I was in my 20s. Um, but I was seriously in a bad state of health, because I just didn't take care of myself. And, we all need to take care of ourselves.
Definitely, we need to take care first. First things first is our health, then we can build on that. Because if we don't have our health, we don't have wealth. I guess the Jim Rohn said that. So, what do you think are some of the best resources, tools, or books that you would personally like and would you recommend to people?
Uh, okay. Well, books that I really liked, Good to Great by Jim Collins is an excellent book. It's been around for quite a while, but I just think it's great. The method that he used to write that book and the principles and the models that he has, I definitely utilize those. Um, Also, Permission-Based Marketing by Seth Godin. That's another book that's kind of old, but it's really extremely relevant today, I think. And it's a very pretty short book, easy read too, but packed with good information. Um, Strengths Finder, I think, is really good for people, that so they can determine, their like five core strengths and really capitalize on those strengths and work those strengths, and then try to find people to um, balance them out that have other strengths. Yeah, that's a neat book. Rich Dad Poor Dad from Robert Kiyosaki. I think that's a good book just for the way you kind of think about things in life with your business and what actually is going to help bring you wealth, and a sustainable livelihood.
Hmm. Cool.
Yeah.
And I would add to them business kung fu. So,
Thank you. Yes, Business Kung Fu, which you can get on Amazon, paperback, hardcover, and Kindle format. Yeah, thank you for that. I agree with your recommendation.
yeah. I love the name. Buddhist Kung Fu is a great name. Like it's very catchy and it's intriguing. Like if I was walking in a bookstore and I would say that title, oh, this seems interesting. Yeah,
Thank you. Thank
awesome.
you. I've been getting a lot of great feedback, similar to that, with the title. So that's great. Thank you.
Great title. So, Craig, where can people can learn more about you, learn more about what you do, and get in touch with you?
Sure. So the best places to learn about me and get in touch with me are my website, which is c-squaredpro.io. So that's the letter C and then squared spelled out, pro spelled out .io. So c-squaredpro.io. and you can learn about me. You can actually download the first chapter of my book for free, and the 5 elements that we talked about are in that first chapter. So you can people can get that there. There's a form to fill out that if you want to contact me, and I always monitor that. Also, LinkedIn. I'm on LinkedIn as Craig Cook. That's COOKE at the end. Craig Cook. So you just do a search and you'll find me. And I monitor my LinkedIn messages quite a bit too. So that's another great way to get a hold of me. And I'm on social media channels, other Instagram and Twitter and TikTok and all that stuff. But if someone wants to get a hold of me, it's best to reach me through my website or LinkedIn.
Awesome, awesome. Thank you very much, Craig, for being here with me on this episode of Success Secret podcast. Amazing story you have, amazing insight and essential knowledge. Very important. Like we have to stick with generally we have to start from the fundamentals and basic. If we don't have that, we don't have next levels in business or life. Thank you very much for joining me for this one.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And I hope that your audience finds it helpful. Thank you.